And we're live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And today's bout against the 76ers ended with a 76ers win, 123 to Pistons 111. Tonight, oddly enough, well, I guess not too oddly with Jalen Duren out with an ankle injury, but we saw a lot of Nerlens Noel and Kevin Knox. What did you kind of see from them? Did Nerlens Noel kind of pass the eye test of like, ooh, he's kind of getting a little attention?
Uh, he had a quiet but solid game that you would expect from a guy who really hasn't played all season.
Yeah.
And I'll take 6 points and 4 rebounds from him. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a terrible game. He only played 13 minutes, so you can understand why the numbers are that low. But to
Mm-hmm.
be that productive in 13 minutes is still good. He was 3 for 3 for shooting too, which that I'll
Yeah.
take that.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me when you come in off the bench, if you're only going to put up 6 to 8 to 10 points off the bench, is I want you shooting high percentage shots. I don't
Yeah.
want you missing a lot of shots. A guy like Alec Burks, you can kind of give him some leeway just
Mhm.
because he's the score first point guard. But guys like Noel, Knox, I don't want to see them putting up 12 shots and going 1 for 12 or
Yep.
something like that. I want them to be a high percentage coming off the bench because that's just what we need. We need consistency.
Yeah, they can't just ride the bench almost the entire season and then come in when they actually get playing time and just chuck things up. That won't fly. If they do that, they're not going to be on the roster pretty much. They
Yeah.
don't deserve to be at least.
hmm One of the biggest discrepancies between us and the Sixers tonight was just turnovers. I
Yep.
mean, the Sixers pretty solid, 13 turnovers, and the Pistons with 23. The league average for turnovers is like around 14, 15. That's kind of what the league average is every night. And if you have 23 turnovers, I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised you come out on the losing end after 23 turnovers in a game.
I will say our starting lineup tonight, well, today, uh, compared to last season, it looked and felt to me as if it was the same team. Like, just
Yeah.
in the sense you had Bay, Stu, and Killian all out there. It kind of just felt natural.
You know,
But
it's, go ahead.
go, no, you go.
No, but yeah, I literally thought about like the same exact thought around the second quarter. I was like, wow, this feels like last year's team
Yeah.
because Ivy, how many points did Ivy
He only had
have?
10.
Yeah, so Ivy with like 10. I mean, he had 6 boards, 6 assists. That's not
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
But overall, throughout the game, if you watched it, you just felt like he didn't really have a presence.
No.
So when you have Ivy not really have a presence, you have Sadiq Bey shooting a lot of shots. You have Stu with a solid night.
Stu had a
20,
great night.
yeah, 20 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists. You know, that is very reminiscent to what would have been a year from now, a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
Um, so I definitely totally get what you're saying. It felt like, oh, like not having Cade, not having Duran, not having some of those key guys you're excited about. It did kind of feel like a 2 years ago, year and a half ago team.
Yeah, it just felt like you threw Ivy and Bogey in there to last year's roster pretty much. It
Yeah.
didn't feel any different. And that's no
Mhm.
disrespect to any of them.
No.
Because Bogey still had 20 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds, and a steal. That's not terrible. But his shooting was not there today. It
Yeah.
wasn't. He was 7 for 17 and then 1 for 4 for 3. But he did make his 5 free throws, so I'll take that as we
Mhm.
reflect from our past recap where we were kind of like disappointed with their free throws. But I'll
Yeah.
take that from him. But yeah, those two guys, along with pretty much our starters from last year, it felt the same.
What was going on with Sadiq Bey tonight? I mean, 28 minutes, 1 for 4 from field goals, 2 missed threes, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 2 points. I, I don't really get how he can go from having a 5 game stretch to just kind of like pretty much a big goose egg tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't see Philly guarding him particularly well. I just
No.
don't think he was really involved.
I think it was a situation where not only wasn't he he really wasn't involved, but it was also more of like he wasn't in a vibe, if you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like
Yep.
he wasn't feeling himself all game. It was
Hmm.
more of like, I missed that shot. Let's try again. I missed that shot. Let's keep going. But then it doesn't get there. And then we go away from him and go into other guys and game plan differently coming out
Hmm.
of half. And then he just doesn't get involved that much anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what happened.
How much blame do you place on Casey for not getting a guy like Sadiq Bey, who's typically very instrumental in our offense? How much blame do you put on Casey for not getting him involved, not giving him looks?
Ah, I mean, because everybody has an off night here and there.
Hmm.
I will say you could blame him a little bit, but I wouldn't go like, oh, it's Casey's fault that Bay didn't have a good game. Because
Yeah.
Bay got the minutes. He had 29 minutes. He
Yeah.
just he wasn't productive offensively in the 29 minutes. Defensively, he you can be a great defender and not rack up stats. So
Hmm.
he was kind of in that mold tonight, but at the end of the day, the 76ers still won.
Yeah. But the only reason I take a double take is because he only put up 4 shots.
Yeah.
So like for me, like what? Sadiq Bey's a offensive scorcher. Why is he only putting up four shots? That's why I kind of was like, thinking like, okay, is that on Casey? What is he not drawing up enough plays for Sadiq? Like, is he not giving him enough opportunity? I just kind of wanted to like kind of take a look at that and just see what that kind of looked like. I don't think the Pistons, unfortunately, aren't really a team where they're drawing up a lot of plays.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of times where I'm like, oh, they just had 4 possessions in a row that were curated by a Casey. They're not really Casey doesn't seem to be that kind of coach. So I don't think a lot of blame has to go on Casey, but I think at halftime, going into halftime, I think Sadiq only put up about 2 more shots in the second
Yeah.
half. It would have been nice for Casey to be like, go over to Killian, go over to Ivy, be like, hey, Sadiq's only got 2 shots up so far. Go give him some feelers. But I just don't think that happened tonight. I think there was just some other things that were getting focused on by the coaching staff.
Yeah.
And that'll kind of segue into our defense. The defense tonight just couldn't get consecutive stops. And it's not like the Sixers had Embiid. It's not like they had their main offensive piece. Yeah, James Harden throughout his career has gotten better and better at passing, but guys like Tyrese Maxey, Niang, I think that's how you say his last name, Niang,
Yeah.
were just giving us buckets. And those are guys that if you're trying to beat the Sixers, you got to slow their roll. You got to kind
Yeah.
of have to try to contain them because they can go out and give you 23 points.
I will say to add on to those two guys, you
Yeah,
can't let Patrick Reed or Montrezl Harrell have the nights that they had.
I agree. Good
Because
point.
Harrell, I love him. He works
Hmm.
his tail off, but you can't allow him to have 20 points.
Yeah, I know.
He's one of those guys where he's more of like a bully. He's gonna beat you down in the paint as hard as possible and try
Yeah,
and get a bucket. Where he could have with the Hornets there, he was like quiet range of 10, 12 points. But when he's
yep,
going out for 20, that's not good. Or Patrick Reed having 16 and
yeah,
12 rebounds, that's not good. So
no, no.
defensively, we were not there tonight.
Yeah, which is funny because Isaiah Stewart offensively had a good game, right?
Hmm.
Like we said, 20 points, 13 rebounds, but defensively he did seem to struggle. I
Yeah.
think he's gotten himself used to in these first 40 games guarding the 4 spot.
Hmm.
And I think he just got exposed tonight by Montrezl Harrell, who is a solid center. And
Yeah.
I think Isaiah Stewart just is not used to that play anymore. Just because his defense did look off. And a guy like Nerlens Noel, who's supposed to be a defensive stopper, you would think when he gets playing time, our defensive rating, our defensive ability would go up, but we just didn't really see that happen. I was hoping, oh, Nerlens Noel's getting some playing time. Maybe our defense will have some oomph to it,
Yeah.
but it just didn't really.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed there, but again, he only played 13 minutes. But
Yeah.
still, I agree with what you're saying. I think he has gotten used to playing the four
Hmm.
because he out there, it didn't look like he was playing like he was a five. He was playing like he was a four the entire
I
game.
thought so too.
Yeah. So, and then our five was Stu, but our four was Bay. So you can understand why Bay might have jumped down to those low of numbers, given that he was playing a different position than he really has gotten used to this season in that offense with Bogey and everything. So I can
Yes.
understand that. But Stu needs to definitely work more on defense because everybody wants to say, "Oh yeah, he's a 3 and D." Where's the defense? And where
Yeah.
was the three tonight? Honestly, he was 0 for 3.
Yeah, he was 0 for 3.
So yes, I'm not saying he had a terrible game. He had 20 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal, but he still needs to be that defensive anchor that we drafted him to be.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, good solid games from Alec Burks and Hamidou Diallo, both with 12 points. Hamidou with 7
Yeah.
rebounds. I mean, Alec Burks with 3 assists and 4 rebounds. They both, Hamidou was 6 for 9. Alec Burks was 4 for 6. That's what I want
Yep.
from them. That is, if Cade Cunningham's in and Jaden Ivey is getting consistent and Hamidou and Alec Burks are putting up those kind of numbers off the bench, that is exactly what we need to be in the middle to top tier of the East. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we need. It's just unfortunately, being a Pistons fan, the stars don't always align, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes our bench plays well and our starters kind of fall back offensively and aren't holding their weight. I think that's just kind of what happened tonight because I really did like the way Hamidou played tonight. And with
Yeah.
7 rebounds, man, I mean, I love it. And we had him early on in the game
Hmm.
come in, sub in, and then make those energy plays that we need. Everyone needs to fill a role. And I think Hamidou's finding his role with Detroit. And I really, really like that because if he finds his role, I think he might be here long term with the way
Yeah.
he's playing.
Yeah. He also had those 2 steals, which were big for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he did have the 3 turnovers, which kind of takes away from the steals. But I'm definitely taking 12 points and 7 rebounds from him for a
Yeah.
6 for 9 shooting night. And he did play 27 minutes, so that's much higher than he normally plays. But that just shows him that the team believes in him and that they want to give him the chance. So if he takes that and uses it to his advantage and goes out every night going, I'm getting 12 points, I'm happy, and
Dude,
I
yeah.
think everybody's happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Something else that has to be noted is Harden's triple double with
Yep.
only 1 minute into the third quarter. I mean, that guy, talk about a guy that has changed the way he plays over his career. You know, he
Mm,
started just kind of a 3 and D guy, and then he kind of turned into an offensive scorcher when he got to Houston. And then he goes to Brooklyn, kind of continues to, and then kind of starts getting better at passing because
yep.
of playing with guys like Kevin Durant. And then now he's in with the Sixers, and his passing is just a top notch. I really props to him for
Yeah.
kind of molding his game. I think that's what every NBA player wishes they could do, but
Mhm.
not all of them do it. So that's pretty cool from James Harden. I'm a big fan of that cat.
Yeah, it seems like every single team he's played on, he's evolved.
Yeah,
And it's pretty amazing to watch, honestly.
yeah, it
Even
is.
though at times he does not try on defense at all, and it's
Yeah.
really embarrassing for him. And then other times you have that like the one iconic highlight of him where he just swipes down at the ball and acts like he wasn't doing anything, but then blocks the shot still.
Yeah,
So you have those moments, but James Harden, great game.
yeah.
We gotta
Props.
when we play the 76ers next, which is really soon, we need to lock him down. If Embiid is out, we need to lock him down. If we lock down Harden, there goes their key guy in terms of putting up points, dishing it out, getting some boards. If we lock down Harden, then all we have to deal with is a bunch of role players essentially. And so if we can lock down Harden, I think we can put a handle a little bit more on Maxey. And obviously we got to stop the role players like Harrell or Patrick Reed.
Yeah. And when we were coming into this Sixers game, the Sixers are looking at the 5th spot in the East right now. I wasn't looking for necessarily a win. Yeah, that would be great. But I would have liked us to just play them a little bit more competitively. It would have been nice to see them kind of slow down guys like Harden, just like you were saying, kind of control their role players. But there was times in the game where the Sixers were just completely in control of the game, of the pace, they were in the mindset, I'm going to go get a bucket, and they went and got buckets. So it would have been nice to see us play them a little bit tougher since they're the 5th spot. But it just didn't happen tonight.
I will say credit Doc Rivers. He is probably one of the most underrated coaches in the NBA, in my opinion.
So. Yeah.
But whatever team he coaches, they all know how to play together. Mm-hmm. And they just work so well off of each other based off his system. So when you have the 76ers coming to town and they're playing not their best night scoring wise when they're only scoring 123, but they're locked in the entire time and they're playing in sync. And that's just because of how well that system is that Doc Rivers has created. And so my goal for the Pistons right now is we need to play something like that. We can't have 20 plus turnovers and expect to win. If we play in sync and get more experienced around each other, I think we'll have a night where we're playing like the 76ers on a regular basis, and I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, and we're competing, and we're making it competitive. Any last thoughts for tonight's recap of the 76ers Pistons match?
Killian Hayes, thank you.
Oh yeah, we kind of have to let's take some time to talk about that. We've kind of been like a Killian like fan base, like we're like his little fan club at this point.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, break down the stats for us, Ryan.
He had 26 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 1 block. He did have 5 turnovers and 2 personal fouls, but let's hide those stats for a second. Hey. It was 11 for 17 for field goals and 4 for 8 for 3. Like, Killian, just thank you. Yeah. This is what we've been wanting for like your entire career. Yeah. And this season alone, you've been right here past everybody's expectations, honestly, because everybody has kind of written you off a little bit. But thank you, because you had a great night and you continue to do good things every single time you step out there.
Yeah, and one thing I've always wanted from Killian is I distinguish a basketball player from a pro's pro, where a pro's pro hits wide open shots. He takes advantage of what teams give him, and we saw that from Killian tonight that we haven't seen before, where he gets the ball for a wide open shot and he knocked them all down. Whatever the Sixers kind of gave him in the opening of defense, he took it and ran with it and got 26 points. So I love it. He's been playing great. We're pretty much his fan club.
Yep.
Maybe we should get some Revved Up 906 Killian Hayes merch or something.
Maybe.
And like hashtag fan club or something with Killian's face on it.
I will say a little bit of a bold take here.
Yeah.
I would not be at all surprised if Killian come next season is in the starting lineup long term around Jaden Ivey and Cade. That would be a small ball lineup, but I would not be surprised.
People and Pistons fans might not like this, but I've always thought Killian could do small forward. I've always thought he could pull off that spot. So I wouldn't hate a Killian Hayes, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, and Jalen Duren lineup.
Yeah. And even if it's not Stu, throw in Bogey. There you go. Right. And let's say we get Wemby in the draft. Throw in Wemby at the 4. Because Killian is literally a dimer consistently every night, he's going to lob it up every single time to Wemby or to Stu or to Duran or any of these guys. And
Yep.
then you have Cade just being very controlling and changing the outcome of the game, taking those good shots. Ivy exploding all over the place, not in a
Mhm.
bad way, of course, but just
Yeah.
blowing past guys, going to the rim. Just
Mhm.
imagine how fast of a lineup we would have with all those guys in there. That would be
Yeah.
pretty good.
And like the Cade Cunningham kind of in that like Jason Tatum
Yeah.
role of just go out and get a bucket. We're gonna set you up all night. I could
Yeah.
kind of see that.
It's kind of like, again, with the Boston reference, it's kind of like the Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those three guys. Literally, Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes, and Cade Cunningham.
Because honestly, right now, the way Killian's playing, he's playing too good to just go on the bench.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that might his
Deteriorate what he's
ceiling.
kind of done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it might deteriorate what he's done, but it also might not give him the opportunity to what he can be.
Yeah.
So he might be able to be an all-star point guard, but if he's coming off the bench his whole career, he's not going to stick around in Detroit. And I want him to be in Detroit long
Oh,
term.
I want him to
So
be here probably for his entire career.
that would be great. So that's what I mean. Like we're going to have to make some hard decisions, and that might be deciding who's starting. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because I honestly would have Stu coming off the bench. I'd have Sadiq coming off the bench. Bogey, I'd start him until, let's say, we had Wemby,
Yeah.
but I'd have him on the bench because he's a great role player.
Mhm.
Not saying he's a bad starter at all. He's a great starter too. But as he gets older, because he's what, 33 right now?
Yep.
As he gets older, he's going to slow down a lot. So you could just have him come in and hit the shot on time to time. So, but yeah, I think those three guys are our Boston trio.
Yeah, I like it. We'll have to make one of our next episodes talking about that
Yeah.
because that'll be a fun topic to break down, kind of see where Jalen Brown and Marcus Smart and Tatum were kind of at where Ivy, Killian, and Cade are at, kind of
Yeah.
compare where they're at, where they were at in their careers. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. Tonight's game was a loss to the 76ers, 123 76ers and 111 the Detroit Pistons. Me and Ryan got some big things coming up. We're taking a trip to Detroit for the February matchup against the Phoenix Suns and the Charlotte Hornets. So we'd love to see all y'all there at Little Caesars Arena. And I think we're probably gonna like try to do some vlog stuff or
Yep.
something. I think that would be cool to kind of
Oh,
get
yeah.
some vlogs up on the channel of us kind of gallivanting around Detroit
Yeah.
for those couple days. But yeah, so big things coming in that Detroit trip. And then you can follow us on Instagram at revved.up906. Follow us on TikTok. We've been kind of like low key
Yeah.
blowing up on TikTok. So go follow us on TikTok. And we also have Twitter. So go
Yep.
follow us on Twitter. And then this week's episode, we're going to be talking about if Jalen Duren is starting over Nerlens Noel because he's better, or if we're just putting more eggs in the basket for Duren. We're going to kind of be breaking that down, what might happen with Nerlens Noel in these next couple months. So we will see you all in our next episode. Peace.
Peace.